Ahoy and welcome back to the Workaround. My name is Bob Gilbreth. You are in good company with over 11,000 fellow entrepreneurs and innovators who follow my stories from a career in tech startups and corporate innovation. I'm sitting here right now to make you think, smile, and discover a shortcut to success or a trap to avoid. I'm just going to jump into it right now. This is called The Work Advice That Changed My Life and ended up changing many more lives too. I recently heard a story from a veteran management consultant about being a rookie on the job many years ago. She was on an early, high-pressure assignment, feeling stressed about whether she would be able to assist her client in an industry with which she had no prior experience. Never let that stop a consultant. At one point, her more experienced manager saw the fear in her eyes and said, "Being a consultant is like being a tour guide in a country you've never been to before. You just have to study the guidebook the day before everyone else does." This handful of words gave her the perspective and confidence she needed, and she would go on to repeat them to many junior employees on her teams over the years. Specific advice offered early in our careers can help us better perceive reality and adjust our course in a way that significantly enhances our potential for success. Hearing that story brought me back to the best advice I ever received. It has helped shape me into who I am today, far beyond business. Yet only now do I realize why I was able to hear it back then. Let's start at the finale. It's May 1998, and I'm staying at my friend's home in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's the second year of my MBA program, and in 4 days, I start my internship in marketing at Procter & Gamble. It's Thursday, and I've joined them for a big party to watch the last episode of Seinfeld, called The Finale. At the party, I meet Anne, who will be my manager for the summer. I find her to be an interesting mix of smiles and seriousness. She has recently been promoted after a few years at the company, and I will be the first person she has managed. Anne seems a little nervous about her new job and responsibilities. But I am much more nervous, as I've got what feels like my whole future riding on this summer job. My wife is still in New York City, hunting mice in our crappy, expensive little apartment. We've borrowed a lot of money from my MBA program before our undergrad loans are even paid off. While nothing is guaranteed, there is buzz among the interns that performing well over the summer should lead to an offer to return full-time after graduation. I would love to come back and tell my wife that the sacrifice was worthwhile and spend my second year of school with little stress. I head off to that first day of work and begin onboarding with Anne. She quickly addresses my hope that there is an offer awaiting at the end of my 3 months, but she warns me that I've got to finish my projects on time in order to get it. Then she walks me through the 4 projects on my plate. Do you remember being in college in that first week of class when each professor shares the syllabus? It's a massive list of quizzes, tests, homework assignments, written papers, and group projects. Each semester, I'd be in a daze the first few weeks, wondering how I would get everything done. That's what it feels like now, with much, much higher stakes. I've got to do direct mail pieces, coupons, and a PR kit. I've never managed anything like this before, and they sure sound like they will take a while. The good news is I've got a design agency assigned to help me produce everything. The bad news is that they can't kick off the projects for another week. That leaves me sitting and stewing. I don't have many days to work with. And what's their scheduling problem? I walk into Anne's office to share my concern about the agency's timeline. I tell her what I'm worried about and share my frustration. I say something like, "We're the clients here. Don't they understand we've got to get this thing moving?" Anne smiles and takes a deep breath. She has a look on her face that I've seen before from my more patient teachers. She says, here's how you need to think about working with your agencies. They don't work for you, you work for them. For a few seconds, I'm dumbfounded. What the hell is she talking about? This sounds idiotic. But then Anne saves me from myself by explaining further. She says, your agencies and other business partners are critical to your success. They have skills that you lack. You can't do the work they do. They also work on multiple projects and clients. If you treat them well, they will prioritize your work and bring even more creative energy. So, it's 100% in your interest to support them as much as you can. I understood Anne's words, but it takes me a few days to let her advice sink in. Those days also give me time to get my shit together before the kickoff meeting with the design agency. I come up with a plan. My agency account lead, Lori, arrives at our office with a designer and junior project manager in tow. We sit down and I proceed to lay it all out on the line, saying, look, I know nothing here. This is my first time in a marketing job. I need to finish my projects by the end of the summer to get this offer. Do you think you can hit this timeline? How can I help you help me? Lori is surprised at first, but then settles back into a smile. She says, don't worry, Bob. We can get it done. We're going to get you that offer. I relax and we roll up our sleeves. In the weeks ahead, we produce great work and deliver it before my deadlines. Anne is excited to extend an offer to me, and I can't wait to return and work for her again next year. Seeing this strategy work out turned it into a model for the rest of my career. It was like a secret hack that we certainly didn't learn in business school. It became a model for working with vendors of all kinds, both at work and in my home life. When I onboarded my first direct report a few years later, I told him, I work for you, then passed forward the advice that Anne gave me long ago. And I applied this mindset in my first CEO role, onboarding new hires by showing them how we flipped the organizational chart upside down. Not only does this mental model help enroll and excite people to do great work for your business, but it ensures that you are scaling yourself. When the leader thinks they need to touch everything, people stop thinking for themselves. But when a leader admits they aren't the expert and views their role as empowering others, they create an environment where every employee can work wonders. Most people call this servant leadership. For me, it's part of an overall approach to building a high-performance organization. Once we see this model work its magic, we lean into it even further. We listen closely, study human nature, and develop novel organizational systems that eliminate fear and foster trust. And then we start to hear our teammates share our words back to us. As I prepared to write this post, a little wink from the universe arrived in a LinkedIn post by my friend Molly, who worked on my strategy team in my agency days. On LinkedIn, she said, one of the greatest compliments I ever received from a former boss/colleague was that, quote, I've always admired that you're one of the few people I've ever worked with that brought their whole self to work. What you see is what you get, and it's great. Molly went on to say, it wasn't a backhand comment, he meant it. And to be honest, I agree. It's nice to be me. Thanks, Bob. She tagged me. I don't remember saying this to Molly many years ago, but I'm sure I did, because it's what I felt then and now. Ironically, my favorite compliments are when people repeat back something I said to them years ago. Comments that stuck in their minds at the moment and set them on a different direction in work and life. It's always surprising to hear this and a little scary. Words are spells. Only now, 27 years after hearing that advice from Anne, do I understand why they worked a spell on me the way they did. It's the most interesting thing about retelling stories here. I get to learn something new each time. Here's the deal. I was young and I knew nothing about marketing, but I was eager to learn and desperate for that job offer. And Anne's advice was delivered with respect and care. Put that all together, and my ego defenses were down. This allowed me to be in listening mode, and I heard the truth I so needed to hear. And with the success of this new approach, I kept those ego walls from reforming. This is the mentality that helps us see our jobs as serving others and trusting that things will work out for the best when we lead with love rather than fear. Note, it doesn't take a brilliant leader or spiritual guru to speak the words you need to hear. When you need to hear them, and when your ego softens enough to allow them through, they can be hiding in plain sight. Today, I receive invaluable words of advice from the strangest people and places. When this happens, I often think of the character Sybil Trelawney from the Harry Potter books. She was the professor of divination who can't see the future when it's in front of her face, except for that one time when she is right, and Harry hears her. The Greeks got this from the oracle at Delphi. Some people find what they need to know about themselves in personality tests, dream interpretation, tarot cards, or even astrology. When it works, it's not hocus pocus, but rather our unconscious selves seeing and mirroring the truth back to the conscious us. Great leaders realize their words can be spells. We can use threatening words to motivate people through fear, or we can lead with the spirit of love. Either way, we will affect business performance and impact the broader lives of our employees. I wonder if I would be different today if Anne's advice came from fear instead. What if she said something like, "You need to threaten that you'll move your business elsewhere if they don't deliver"? I've seen people's careers poisoned by their first boss's awful words. Would I have gotten the internship, founded companies, formed the same friendships, and be the same husband and father? What words would I be saying here today? I'll never know. But now I know this: we must choose our words wisely, for they might change someone's life. Okay, how about a word from our sponsor, which is our companies. Fleet is our holding company for services businesses. We invest in leaders who are ready to start their own companies. We also do a little M&A. If this might be you, please hit my open offers hours link. We'll have a conversation. A2 Influence is our content development agency that helps some of the biggest brands and retailers in the world create and distribute authentic content at scale. We're actually going to be out at the Cannes Lion Advertising Fest in mid-June. If you're going to be coming out there or someone on your team, please shoot me a note, hit me up. We'd love to meet with you guys out there. Should be a lot of fun and a lot to learn. Revelin is our consulting practice that helps with revenue alignment, growth management, and other RevOps functions. Our CEO of Revelin, Jess Schumann, is standing by to share a no-cost assessment of your business if you're up for it. And of course, feel free to schedule a chat during my open office hours. Hit the link. We can discuss questions, feedback, networking, any topic. Always my favorite highlight of the week, meeting with new and old friends on those times. And then finally, the cool content of the week, a little something I found meaningful. You might agree. Kind of on broadly, we're talking about voices of the future here. And I've raved before about Neil Stephenson. I'm going to do it again. If you want to make bets on the future, you could do a lot worse than consulting the most popular science fiction works. I recently reread Neil's book, The Diamond Age, which is a vision of a high-tech, AI-driven future that feels remarkably close to reality today, despite being written almost 30 years ago. Meanwhile, Neil writes about the present and future from a nonfiction perspective over on his Substack. And last week, he shared a summary of his view on AI, which was from a panel he spoke on in New Zealand recently. As you might expect, it's unique and fascinating. It's some perspective you're not going to find anywhere else. In particular, Stevenson suggests that we'll be unleashing an ecosystem of entities, and he has some optimism that competition in that ecosystem will keep them in check. and for the good. But he also warns us that the talk of augmentation could be powerful, but it could lead to amputation of our previous skills and abilities. So go check out Remarks on AI from NZ from Neil Stevenson. Meanwhile, that is it. Hope you're having a good kickoff to the summer. Thanks for listening and watching. Ahoy for now.